Welcome everyone to the Politics of Survival. I'm your host, TheTaraReade, and my producer, Reade Freeland, and I are going to talk about the week, the news, and also this is a big day for me. It is October 20th, Friday evening in Moscow, afternoon for you in the US, and a couple hours backwards in the UK and whatnot. But for those of you that are watching, today is entering my 6th month living in Moscow, Russia. So I celebrated, and this is how I celebrated. I really miss my guitar, and I didn't bring it with me. So I got a new guitar. Her name is Ruby. She's an L series Yamaha. I usually like Martins, but I like a good Yamaha too. I'm really happy to have Ruby as part of my family now. And I don't know about you all, but I name my guitars. And I also, I know there's the stereotype about women collecting shoes. I love musical instruments, particularly guitars. And so I'm probably going to start collecting guitars again. I found this amazing shop in this bohemian part of Moscow where it was like these old buildings that used to be this manufacturing warehouse. And it was brick, but like 1800s, 1700s, the really old buildings, all redone, but really cool, funky vibes. There's an art lofts. There were music pods, and it has the Moscow School of Music. I saw people walking around there with their different musical instruments. I saw people walking around with art stuff, and it just made me feel happy. I just felt like, it almost kind of had a Soho vibe before Soho got really gentrified in New York, or maybe like a San Francisco vibe before it got destroyed by the different neoliberal mayors that have allowed it to be overrun with poverty and sadness because they're not helping the infrastructure. But that's another story. But anyway, it was wonderful to see this little hub in Moscow. I hung out with the guitar guys, and they were very patient with me, showing me, because I tried several guitars before I settled on Ruby. And I really got a good deal on Ruby too. She was a custom. It's a little smaller guitar, but fits me good. And here, kind of the different little special effects she has. Anyway, it just was wonderful to do something kind of almost luxurious, because I've been basically just trying to rebuild my life, meaning I didn't have clothes, coats, shoes, plates. So it felt good to buy something that was just to feed my soul. And I don't know about you all, but this week has been really draining emotionally, because we're watching all this violence unfold in the Middle East. And, of course, there's other violence in other areas of the world, and seeing images of children being murdered, being killed, civilians. And now the death count of Palestinians is up past, almost to 3,000. They think it's even more because of the people under the rubble. And it's heartbreaking. And it feels like you just can't do anything. And then when you try, you get suppressed, deboosted. And so Reef is here to talk a little bit about that. And so you're only seeing my show on my YouTube channel. Usually it's on the INN channels, the Indie News Network channels, but not tonight. And Reef can explain why. So Reef, I'm going to pull you in here if you can.
I actually get to turn my mic on for this show. That's rare. I have to remember to press that button. But no, what? Why? Why is the music playing? Oh.
It's off.
Anyway.
All right.
So yeah, the we have many members in INN. We do have our own channel on YouTube, Indie News Network. You can go there. And we've been talking about this Palestine coverage a lot, as well as many others. And one of our members, Big Mad Crab, does the thumbnails for this show. Also has a show on the channel called Politically Homeless, where they talked about how you shouldn't condemn Hamas. And apparently, in YouTube's eyes, that is, here I will pull up what they told us, was that Our team has reviewed your content, and unfortunately, we think it violates our violent criminal organization policies.
Whoa.
So, yes,
Whoa.
content that glorifies violent criminal organizations or incites violent acts against individuals. I know Greg didn't do. He said
No.
only to not.
Oh,
You shouldn't condemn
we're
them.
talking about
He didn't condone
oh my,
Hamas. He said don't condemn them. They're obviously victims in this, just as if, I don't know, we shouldn't condemn anyone rioting or revolting against a colonialist power. So
let's talk about the bigger picture of this. What the
yes,
heck does YouTube get off shutting down people's channels, controlling the narrative, when all of these people are talking about peace and ceasefire, and the powers that be are using war machines to kill and to maim and to destroy, whole
yep.
cities, and they're not being shut down.
Well, I
But the
know.
people that are wanting, hey, we need peace, we need a ceasefire, we need dialogue, they get shut down. So like we get shut down for saying
Right.
that. It just,
Which we can't even the whole ceasefire thing is a misnomer on top of that. Like it's there's only one aggressor in this,
Right.
Like
Yeah, there is only one aggressor.
Saying a ceasefire is like saying, right.
Telling them to stop. That's what needs to happen.
Yes.
That's what they mean by the ceasefire. Like,
right.
Stop everything.
Yep.
Stop. Like the last I heard when I was checking the news cycle, unfortunately there was a vote in Israel and they decided to go in the ground. And so that was imminent. And I know that's been held off for a few days. It kept being held off due to weather and due to other things. And then of course there was the bombing of the hospital, and there's been dialogue around the responsibility of that. And it reminded me of the Nord Stream pipeline, when obviously the US bombed it, but they're trying to say Russia bombed it itself. And again, we're dealing with the gaslighting here, only, with the Gaza strip and Israel just, gaslighting everyone. And I'm sorry, if, but this is the truth. There's a genocide happening, Reef. And we're watching it unfold. There's over 2,000 children that are dead in 10 days. In 10 days. I don't care if they take down my YouTube channel because I'm stating the truth and that it needs to stop, and that the people doing it are warmongering Zionist monsters, because that's what they are. They are monstrous to kill over 2,000 innocent children, 1,000 women. There are thousands of people. There's 2.1 million people in the Gaza Strip. 1 million are children. It needs to stop. And, I have no problems with there. You can't both sides this. It's a genocide. It's ethnic cleansing. And we have a few articles to get to, but I guess they're just going to have to demonetize. I'm already demonetized.
Yes.
Whatever.
Well, and that's the thing. We're not the only ones here, right? Specifically on this issue, which is recently an issue for YouTube, right? This is we're off the Ukraine bandwagon and on to the next thing. But Richard Medhurst, Jay Buffont of RBN, and Eva Bartlett. Eva Bartlett got her entire channel removed recently. Every video on her channel is gone. It's not gone. She has backups. We also have backups, but
But to Abby Martin.
Yeah.
Martin, but before.
Yep.
Since.
So essentially what happened was we can't stream to INN for a week. We can't post or put up a video or anything like that. Right? They're not saying what part of the video is they're deeming inappropriate here. Right. And then this is the new bit. They demonetized us for 3 months, which we've only just now begun to get memberships and super chats pretty consistently on our channel. Not that we were making anything with it, but it was something. And, there was probably $500 on the books in there that I don't know if we're going to get. That's 500
Yeah,
of our
I think
subscribers' money. I don't know if that money goes anywhere now. So, they
no.
might have to ask for refunds if that's the case. Um, so I don't know how this
So
works. We're gonna
yeah.
appeal. Um,
Mhm.
I don't know if that's gonna do anything, but we'll
Yeah.
see. You know,
Yeah. See.
but
All right. Well, let's get to the articles. Let's move forward, and we just got to keep telling the truth. They can't they can't shut us all down. I mean,
yeah,
there's worldwide happening right now, and
yeah,
they're
they're
trying. And
trying.
and you know what? Before we get to that article, I did want to say one thing.
Hmm.
There is a defense person who is resigning. Someone with the Department of Defense is resigning high up because of the policy that's happening with the Biden administration. You have a letter going from congressional staffers saying like they're threatening to walk. They're talking about their objection to the Biden administration position. So you have some humanity trying to speak up, but you have these globs of power that have sucked in the information sphere, including Elon Musk, and are silencing and suppressing everyone. And,
Yeah,
so you have these evil fucking, let's talk about it for real, multi-billionaires that are deciding what we hear and what we don't, what we say and what we don't. And it's up to them. And I'm sorry, but I don't like that. I don't like it being left up to, Zuckerberg as to what I'm allowed to say and what I'm not allowed to
yeah.
say. He's a little nerd who didn't,
Or
get enough
Elon,
dates. So he
or
built,
whoever runs Alphabet.
you
I mean, all
know,
of these.
care who it is. No one, they don't need
Yeah,
to. I want their boots off my. I want their boots off my throat.
would be
Their
nice.
boots need to come off all our. That'd be really nice. And there you have it. And the only country that I've really been seeing on fire about this issue with just no apologies is Ireland. And God, it makes me proud of my Irish blood because they're
Me too.
standing up about 800 years of oppression themselves.
Yes.
In our history, some of my relatives went to the US to get away from that oppression. Some stayed.
Well,
And I've been
I've had a few friends and family who've taken that oath. You know,
yeah.
who wore those colors and balaclavas. You know what I mean? So it's kind of
Yeah,
they were the first ones to get like, hey, the British learned to do it to us before they did it to you. Like that's
well,
Ireland's opinion.
think about my uncles, and my great uncles, and they were, wildcatters, as I mentioned, but they were
Yeah.
also, very active, you know, um, with supporting, the IRA and with rebellion and all of that. And they're proud of it. Like I have no problem with my history. It's my history.
Yep.
It is what it is.
People
we're
should
Irish
know
Catholic
it.
and that.
Like if you don't know what
Yeah.
the black and tans are, that they actively
Mhm.
pushed like essentially state agents into the IRA, like all that stuff. There's so much history there. On top
There
of like,
is.
Patty McGinnis is having scones with the Queen. Like that's happened. They've completely undercut any of those organizations. So
Yeah,
for
yeah.
good
Sinn
reason,
Féin.
but
But although I stand, with independent Ireland,
yes,
and they're showing their independence because Great Britain is being all mushy and wishy-washy and supporting Israel, and Ireland's like, hell no,
people like
and their
Tilda
representatives are
Swinton, you know,
so that's
speaking out.
so moving on. I wanted to bring up the first article. So which one did you want to bring up first?
That's up to you. Which one did you want?
I forgot which one I told you to put in the.
Yeah,
You're
I've
supposed to
got
have
some. So I've got
Well, the
um.
first one was the TheTaraReade one. Let's talk about Ukraine for a moment.
Okay.
Take the heat off.
Yep.
Other subject matter.
Yep. This one right here. Mira Tarada and Ukrainian religious activists have exposed the Zelensky regime's crimes against Christianity in the Western media. So
Here, I'm losing your mic's. Mic's going in and out, so make sure you stay. Yeah.
So this is about the Foundation to Battle Injustice, which you've had its members on
You're
before.
on.
Yep. So believes the Ukrainian Orthodox Church is undergoing the most ferocious persecution in its recent history. Miratanda, head of the Foundation to Battle Injustice, Yuri Smyk, the Orthodox journalist from Kiev, and Bishop Gedon, pastor of the church that suffered the harsh punishment of the deportation and political exile, share their deep analysis of what's happening in Ukraine. Interviews with U.S. and European media with journalists Jason Bassler and Matt Argerist, editor-in-chief and co-founder of the Free Thought Project platform, Spanish writer and journalist Cesar Vidal Maznares, human rights defender from the Foundation to Battle Injustice, believe it is necessary to combat the unprecedented causes of persecution, violence, and criminal prosecution of the Ukrainian Orthodox Church clergy and believers by organizing peaceful demonstrations on Ukrainian territory and near Ukrainian embassies around the world. So this is coming after they recently voted to ban the religion. Right.
I mean, this is unbelievable. It's like,
yes.
And when I got this article from Mira Tirada, it's like we were having this like discussion back and forth that there's no international law left. It's just whatever. Like, okay, we're just gonna ban the whole religion. It's the religion goes back more than 1,000 years.
Yeah.
And I mean, to ban the Orthodox Church, 85% of their population are Russian Orthodox. 25%, according to statistics, and this is in Ukraine, are Ukrainian Orthodox or whatever it is. It's the same thing. It's Russian Orthodox. It's the same thing. They're the same church. I mean,
people who've not done Eastern Europe at all do not know how much Orthodoxy is part of the culture there. Like, especially near Russia.
Yeah.
Like anything that was beyond the Iron Curtain, like from Romania, like Poland, Orthodoxy is a big deal. And the fact that they're just going, no, you can't, is awful. Like, this is goes against everything we stand for. So
they're attacking religion. And they're attacking religion in the U.S. This is that Western neoliberal attack on religion, but let me go further with this. What's worse about this is they're actually falsely imprisoning some of the worshipers, the clergy. I mean, that's beyond the pale, right?
Yeah.
So just, I'm really, it's bonkers. I mean, that they're getting away with it, and they are. And meanwhile, the world is obviously distracted right now. There's a lot happening, and it's not getting the coverage it should. But, Ukraine also banned the elections. They're not having elections. Zelensky's like, not really popular right now. So no one's going to vote. Right.
Yeah. So and
there's no one. They lost like 400,000 people of the military operation.
Right.
Because they've lost the war. And instead of going to the negotiating table, which, by the way, President Putin again put forward that they're ready anytime to talk.
Yep.
But the U.S. and British interests are literally handcuffing the Ukrainian officials, because they're busy with their money laundering. The Ukraine is very corrupt. So.
Yep. No, yeah. I mean, this is. I'm just like frustrated at it, It's just stuff that like we hear, religious freedom, such a big deal here, that like to ignore it is just kind of sad. What we've seen them,
not but they're criminalized.
I mean, we've seen what they've done to Orthodox pastors in Ukraine. Like, I mean, it's not okay.
Priest, yeah.
So, but. I mean, they're doing stuff at Easter, which is a big deal for Orthodox stuff. That was.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
So.
And, it's untenable. Okay. So now moving on.
Yep.
To before we moved on, though, do we have any comments or questions on that Mira Tirada article? And if anyone read it, it's on my Telegram. It is on Twitter. I said I'm discussing it on Twitter. I'll say more. I'll put up another post, but you can look for it here on the stream. You can click on it and read it and follow the links there, so you can follow their work. and their investigations.
Real deep dish on Rumble. This is World War III. They just haven't told anyone yet. The blatant war propaganda and suppression of independent media is just the start.
Yeah.
Otherwise, people are upset about the Israel stuff, which we can head towards that too. Biden speeches you wanted me to pull.
Yeah, let's keep with the Ukraine theme, because I have a couple of articles on the corruption, some exclusive articles, 2 of them.
Yep.
So let's start with the most recent one that I just put up regarding a witness that if he is coming forward, if he's, testifying, this will break the Democrats' case, defense of Biden, and expose the Burisma corruption, including John Kerry and Nancy Pelosi's
So
kid.
inviting Andre Derkos to Joe Biden's impeachment hearings could break the Democrats' entire defense and prove Biden's corruption in Burisma. This guy, right?
Yep.
So
read a portion of it.
Yeah. So the tactic. Go ahead.
I was just drinking whiskey, saying people could find it on my timeline.
Yep.
Whiskey tonight, and I don't really drink, but like once in a while when I have a bad cough or like I've gotten over a chest cold, my nan told me that Jameson's is good. This is actually cork whiskey. It's Irish.
Sure.
Scotch whiskey. I was telling Galloway's people, I'm like, don't tell George, but I will not drink Scotch whiskey. I only drink Irish whiskey. He'd forgive me.
I'll help you out with the Scotch ones. There's some ones Irish people will accept. I guarantee you. Try the ones from the Isles. You don't want like mermaid's bass water. That exists. Like, don't go try to get Lagavulin. That's gonna be iodine and gross and terrible. But there's some ones that are like floral and nice and Jamesy. Scotch has a big, variability.
Yeah, the one I'm thinking now is West Cork, and West Cork, like I said, I don't do it very much, but it really helps when you have a cough. Kind of breaks up. Like I'm almost done with this cold, and it kind of gives this warm sort of feeling when you've been coughing, so that I won't cough on air. So I promise. Usually I'm not drunk, and I'm not. I've only had a. So I don't do that on air. I'm just having.
Well, next week we have your vodka tasting that we signed you up for.
Right. Mama's gotta have her her mess.
I'm okay with that. So this is about I'm trying to look here. Right, about the Biden's main corruption scheme related to the activities of the Burisma holdings. So gas production plays an important role in the Ukrainian energy sector, which we all know his son became a very important person in that natural resource department. So, a little quid pro quo to the big man there, right? Wasn't that the talks? So
5 million, I think.
Biden then went, and the person investigating that connection ended up not investigating that connection, right? Due to their request.
Right.
So
they're not really, they're like investigating, but not really. Yeah.
Right. A bribe of $6 million for closing the criminal case against the owner of Burisma, where Hunter Biden worked for 5 years. Yeah, big guy.
50,000.
Yeah, $6 million. It's nothing. Don't worry about it. Of course, Rudolph Giuliani here in Kiev connected to a lot of this as well. So, in case people were wondering if this was,
he was trying to expose it. So his connection is he was trying to expose it, and then so the deep state went after him, and they completely eviscerated him and his reputation. And then, of course, threatened him with prison, and now he's facing all kinds of
I think
legal.
Isn't he connected to the Maidan stuff as well? I'm not sure about
Rudy
that. I'll have to look into it.
No. He was
one of them.
Exposed it. He was trying to expose it, and he's been, every time he's had the proof to show it and had the whatever, he's just been gone after. So that's why he's getting buried under the sand. Yeah. So pretty awful. Like the way they've been going after witnesses, investigators. I mean, so it's just, it is what it is. So go to the conclusion of the article, which I thought was really interesting, because the conclusion was really interesting. You want to read that out?
Yeah, I'm looking for it. Should be at the bottom, right? So
Yes.
Analyzing the activities of Andre Derkos, it becomes clear that he was not concerned about Joe Biden personally, but about what Biden, his team, and the puppet government they put in place are doing in Ukraine. That is why it's so important to listen to him during the impeachment hearings of Joe Biden. It is Derkos' testimony about Burisma's activities and Biden's business schemes in Ukraine, beginning with his time as vice president in Obama's administration, that will be the deciding factor against Biden's chances for a second term. Right. This is, they're trying to get him before running, essentially.
Right. Go to the next article, because they're tandem. They're in tandem.
Yep.
Okay, go ahead and
same
subject matter.
I'm looking for it. I had it up. It's this one from 21st Century Wire.
Patrick Henry, he's so brilliant. Everyone should follow his TNT show. He's amazing. His analytical skills are great. Anyway, go on.
He writes, despite the constant deflections being employed by the Democratic Party and its affiliate media, the scale and scope of the Biden family corruption scandal is still growing by the day. From a purely political standpoint, the story has the ability to impact the current 2024 election and could disable President Joe Biden's re-election campaign, not to mention a severe blow to the Democratic establishment, too. More crucially, it will impact the wider deep state, starting with the FBI, the Justice Department, the IRS, and key U.S. diplomatic missions abroad, all of which are directly involved in this scandal and hiding evidence and slowing down any investigations into the current president and his son over the last 5 years. They speak on Ukraine's corruption.
Is the thing about this, Reef, is that so many people are involved trying to cover their own asses, that a lot of the cover up isn't necessarily just to protect Biden. It's to protect their own interests from getting legally called out, to being legally exposed. I mean, some of these people are bureaucrats that basically take kickbacks and do these corruption schemes. And that whole Brady train would end with this exposure, right?
Yep.
Because Ukraine's not the only money laundering corrupt country that the US and its, some of its bureaucrats are dipping their dirty little fingers in. So, this is a symptom of a deeper illness, actually, in the corruption of the US. But go on.
Well, I'll read the conclusion here. There we go, and make sure it's big enough for people to read. Analyzing the activities of Andre Derkos, becomes clear that he was not concerned about Joe Biden personally, but what Biden, the admin, and their proxy puppet government in Ukraine had put in place, which was undermining the sovereignty and independence of the Ukrainian state. So, who is he? Andrea Derkos, I hope I'm saying that right. A suspected Kremlin agent spreading disinformation, or a man who used his experience and connections with top journalists, law enforcers, intelligence officers, and bravely challenged and exposed how Washington's vaunted liberal establishment was mired in corruption overseas. Where is he now? This valuable witness and the man who began to expose the Biden's family international network of corruption. We can only wonder if he is watching the development of the situation around the Burisma case. While we do not have answers to these questions, it would certainly be very interesting to hear his opinion. This is a corruption scandal that stretches all the way to the very pinnacle of political power in Washington, D.C. and beyond. Many believe the story has been successfully buried by the mainstream media and the political establishment. In reality, it's only just beginning. So,
and that's a powerful, and because then it leads us to the one that we did before. But let's check to see if there's any comments or questions about this article, because that was interesting. I think there's going to be
only on if you know any good local vodkas. I'm sure there are plenty.
I do. Later. God, I love people ready to drink at this point. Yeah, I don't know. I'm like there, but Dan told me this is medicine, so
That's what every good Irish
just saying.
person should think, especially the alcoholic ones.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is the whole Burisma story is, you know,
It's been
I don't know.
swept under the carpet. Democrats effectively. They were able to get the mainstream media to not talk about it. And then in that article, by the way, if people want to click on it, they talk about Matt Taibbi's revelations about how they got the media to sweep it under the carpet, because there was mechanisms used to suppress all of this information, all of this corruption, you know, using think tanks, using the media to basically cover up for the DOJ and FBI and then weaponize it towards other people. So Matt Taibbi did really good work exposing that. And he also got visited by the IRS because he because he did expose it.
Who now can carry firearms, so that's useful.
Oh.
You know,
and I mean, and then when people said it, they're like, "Oh, well, only sometimes." It's like, what does that mean?
When
like,
does he right? When is the only sometimes?
Yeah. No. Yeah, because I got to notice that, you know, well, it's just an administrative thing, but like, what if like I was living in where I used to live and then knock, knock, knock. And I'm like, do I ask, hey, are you packing? Or are you just going to talk to me about paperwork, you know?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, that's scary shit. But welcome to
it brings that death and taxes a little closer together, right? Like, yeah.
Really? Like, we don't want to find the so let's bring the video or the photo. I guess it's just a photo of Lurch. I have renamed Anthony Blinken Lurch. Lurch the
yes.
Lurch. I put it on. Yes, so Lurch was behind Biden when Biden gave some remarks. I think there's like a quick, like, and it just shows you, it illustrates you how lapdogs the Western media is, because just
hoping to find the video of that, which ironically took me a while to find any of, because any of those, they just like, please let them go away. Like, please, I know we look dumb and stupid, but
they look, and then on the other side of him was our friend John Kirby, who looked petrified at everything Biden was saying. And then at one point you see him, you can mouth read him. He says, we need to end this. Like,
right, this guy you're talking about, where he's just hiding back here in the background.
Yeah,
which is just
Anthony Blinken never saw a war he didn't like.
Yeah.
He and Lindsey Graham are going to lead us to World War III together. I have a feeling we're going to hold hands during it.
Yeah. I just like that video, which if I can find here, is just terrible. But I have another one.
Yeah, because I have a photo on my timeline.
Yeah, I pulled that one up already. But here you go. I have one for you to react to. Let's go here and then play.
We've seen it described as Israel's 9/11. But for a nation the size of Israel, it was like 15 9/11s. The scale may be different, but I'm sure those horrors have tapped into some kind of primal feeling in Israel, just like it did and felt in the United States. Shock, pain, rage, an all-consuming rage. I understand, and many Americans understand. You can't look at what has happened here to your mothers, your fathers, your grandparents, sons, daughters, children, even babies, and not scream out for justice. Justice must be done.
Since this terrorist for Palestinians.
Yes, that would be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah, like, because he's talking about when he refers to babies, there were no 40 headless, babies that were.
He saw them though.
Story was
he saw the pictures.
And then he said, Oh, Reeve, you're winding up again. I'm going to lose my YouTube channel.
I know.
Won't even notice I'm gone. They'll be like, bye. Click.
Who? TheTaraReade. Who's that?
I don't. Yeah, right. They don't.
So here's Lurch.
Virtually.
What?
I'm not seeing it on. I'm hearing it, but I'm not seeing it. Is it not going out?
There we go.
There you go.
Every mass shooting, every circumstance where a large number of people have been victimized and lost, I've spoken to. I learned a long time ago what you've all learned in your life. When someone's going through something that is beyond their comprehension, they've ever thought they'd have to go through. If they see someone who they think understands or maybe been through something not the same but similar, it gives them some sense of hope. And I always get criticized sometimes by my staff because when I go to these events, I stay for 3 to 4 hours and answer all their questions. But it matters. It matters a lot. And look, I'm talking, some of you have gone through a hell of a lot more than I've gone through, and a lot more than other people have gone through. And you understand. So it's just people are looking for just something to grab, something that gives them some sense of hope. And that's, if I can do a little bit of that, then it's worth doing. It's done for me. So.
Oh my God. Oh, Reef, this winds me up. It winds me up. It's like Grandpa talking about nonsense, and then you're just like, okay, Grandpa, go to bed. But he's like, well, wait, before I do, let me give $100 billion to Israel and Ukraine so that they can kill more civilians, more children and babies, so that people can be more traumatized and destroy more infrastructure. What do you think of that? Thanks, Grandpa. Night. Anyway. The world we live in. What are we going to do? What do we do, Reef? Turn on your mic.
Yep.
So.
Well, what we do is we blame it on Russia. It's what we always do.
The state of Israel was born to be a safe place. There you go.
Okay, set this clip up.
Yeah,
what are we seeing?
We're about to see Biden blame Russia for Israel.
Okay.
Long said, if Israel didn't exist, we'd have to invent it. While it may not feel that way today, Israel must again be a safe place for the Jewish people. The state of Israel was born to be a safe place for the Jewish people of the world. That's why it was born. Long said.
Stop that. Stop
right there. If Israel didn't exist.
Did he say he was born in Israel?
Well, I think a little bit here. I'll back it up.
Go back.
It'll let me. Hello, Twitter. Twitter, are you okay? No,
you know what he did? He said people were passing around this meme. He said he was born in Israel. All right, that's enough of him. I don't want to hear his voice. His voice just great.
Things about yes, announced that he was born in Israel. This is DD_geopolitics. You had her on last week.
Yes, we had her on last week. That's fantastic. No. All right, and you know what? I would encourage follow geopolitics, follow some of their spaces. And by the way, I have an announcement. I was told, I heard a rumor on Twitter, on X, whatever you want to call it, that later tonight I will be sleeping because it'll be Moscow time, 3 a.m. for me, but like evening time, reasonable time for the rest of you. Dmitry Polyansky and Igor Lopotonik and some luminaries will be holding spaces about some of the things that are happening and about the UN's attempt to bring forth not one, but like 3 different times trying to bring resolution of peace talks and, a cease thing. And if you have any of the tweets by Dmitry Polyansky, if you want to put those up, it was really amazing to see them, the Russian delegation try so hard to try to introduce ideas for peace talks. Meanwhile, the US and British voted against it, and the resolutions did not pass because of the NATO alliance.
Yes, well, it was also Brazil. There's a few others. Brazil, I think, was the one that there was a lot of them that like abstained too, and those are also the ones you got to kind of look side eye at, like the not present votes or whatever. But yeah, it was essentially NATO countries plus one or two others. So
I think they tried a sideways way of doing it. So Russia said, okay, we're not going to be involved with this, but let the other countries vote, and just don't vote because Russia brought it, but they still wouldn't vote any kind of, because why? Because there was a recent announcement that by Janet Yellen that we can have a war on two fronts or three. We can have a war against Iran, because that's what this is really about, right, Reef? This is really for the US positioning themselves to go to war with Iran, right?
Yep.
They can have, well, so they can have that.
The rest of the Muslim world.
They're amping up for that, and Ukraine. So the proxy war against Russia is what the US is going for, and then of course Iran, and then it's so they're going to have three war fronts open, bearing in mind that many of these countries have nuclear capabilities. So what are they thinking? Now, I wanted to, before we kind of wind down and get a couple questions, I wanted you to show a short video, if you can find it, if it's not too much trouble, of Vladimir Putin just recently at it's the 10th anniversary of the Belt Initiative. He's over in China. And he basically just said, this isn't a threat, but just letting you know, since the US put their, carriers with their fighter jets in the Mediterranean, we're going to be doing some patrols with our jets. So not a threat, just information. So it was cool the way he said it. He said it better than I did. If you have that little clip.
Yeah, so I wanted to, before I go to that, I'm looking for, we covered this on INN News yesterday. On Tuesday, the Security Council rejected a Russian draft resolution. I just wanted to catch and list for people who was involved there. There we go. So, humanitarian ceasefire in Gaza. The U.S., United Kingdom, France, and Japan voted against the resolution. So, yeah, UK, Japan, France, and then 6 abstentions: Albania, Brazil, Ecuador, Ghana, Malta, and Switzerland. All of those with connections to us in one way or another. So, yeah. But yeah, I'll look up that Putin. What was that summit?
It's the Belt, and 10th anniversary of the China Belt Initiative, if you look it up.
Yep.
That way, he was about the fighter jets. He was talking about the Mediterranean. I'm not sure how it's listed. It's just like a clip. It's a very short clip. But on that SOT, that was an interesting SOT. And the reason why it was interesting to me is because he has to preface it by saying, hey, this isn't a threat. Because every time he says something that's just sort of factual, the West screams hysterically, Putin's threatening this and that and blah, blah, blah. They were noting that he had his nuclear briefcase with him. He always does. If he goes out of the country, he has, so does the US. There's protocols around that for each country that has the ability. That was kind of silly, but of course, All right, did you find it or?
Yeah, so here's them being welcomed to the banquet with these big giant doors.
No, it wasn't that.
No. Pause. Oh, Jesus Christ, Twitter. Sorry.
It's okay. Twitter's X. Remember, we're calling it X.
I'm not. It's okay. Sorry, Elon. My brain can't. I don't like change. He does not make short-term decisions based on some current situation. Where he's talking about, I think this is a speech at that thing. It's Putin Anji.
Yeah, and then yeah.
But anyway,
and then he basically look for it. Okay. So what's going on? Let's move on since we don't have it handy with us. What's going on with questions and comments? And I'll see if I can.
They're talking about Blinken in the back operating Biden like a mannequin. A weekend at Bernie's. The One Belt Road Initiative is key. The U.S. economic empire hegemon will fall and replaced by the new Eurasian economic hegemon of China, Russia, and Israel. At the center, BRICS is central. Yep. People are saying that he was born in Israel line is stupid. Trailer Park Pundit in the chat. Israel's banning Al Jazeera as well, by the way.
Yeah.
Yep. So.
Well, and now we're here. Here it is. I just sent it to you, by the way.
Okay. Gotcha.
Play that song.
Oh, yay. Hypersonic missiles. Exactly what people have been worried about China and Russia having.
Fun stuff.
So I'll hit play.
Угроза, то, что я сейчас скажу, и о чем вас проинформирую. Но по моему поручению военно-воздушные силы, военно-космические силы России начинают...
See if I can actually get it to full screen properly.
Oh, okay.
Or we're getting there.
It's hard to like be on and produce and do the tech. Well, I like just
угроза,
like, hey.
что я сейчас скажу.
Right?
Okay, go ahead.
I'm used to it. It's all right.
Не угроза, то, что я сейчас скажу.
What I say now, what I'll tell you about is not a threat.
По моему поручению,
on my instructions, the Russian Air Force and Space Forces will start permanently patrolling in the neutral area of airspace over the Black Sea. Our MiG-31 aircrafts are armed with the Kinzhal systems. They are known to have a range of more than 1,000 kilometers at a speed of Mach 9. So,
whoa!
Essentially,
they're
saying,
not playing.
Back off.
We're not playing. Yeah, but he's not threatening. He was just giving information that they're just doing their permanent patrols now.
Yep.
And yeah, of course they are. Of course they are. I mean, this is where we're at. So I guess, let's close out the show. And I want people that are watching to please comment and question. So we'll watch for your comments and questions. Because a lot of people, Jimmy Dore, some other people, Bree has been attacked all week for her position on Palestine. But a lot of these same pundits, a lot of these same people that comment on geopolitics are saying, yeah, we're in World War III. This is it. This is the world war that's coming. Especially if the Middle East becomes a regional war and the US engages a hot war with Iran, that will not sit well with the East. And it's just everything's kind of bubbling up and escalating. What are your thoughts? Do you feel like something's going to give, that the pushback that people are giving, trying to defend the Palestinians' position is and the humanitarian effort to help them and save them from a genocide? Do you think that that's going to, thwart this coming, or do you feel like it's just coming, especially with the $100 billion that Biden is now proposing?
You're already seeing many aspects of it. it's this economic war, information war, on top of it possibly being a, war.
Yeah.
You're seeing a lot of the Muslim countries here jump on board and support. And we're not sure to what degree they're willing to do that.
Right.
And who will back them and how that will work. We've been playing war games recently, like actual war games to assess things. Because that's what our
we did nuclear testing. We did nuclear testing in Nevada yesterday.
Yes. Well, this is like they're literally saying if we invade Taiwan, what would happen? And they're going through the simulations on that. And the possibility that China is willing to use anything and everything at their disposal, which is why we've been funding for AI drone programs, AI drone swarms, AI nuclear defense systems, AI nuclear targeting systems, like that we are trying to integrate artificial intelligence into more of our military because of what they think China and Russia are capable of there. Especially with things like hypersonic missiles. Like the issue is that mutually assured destruction may not be mutually assured anymore. That's what they're worried about. So, if it's like where like in Doctor Strangelove, right? Where if one nuclear power has the ability to defend itself here, then why wouldn't the other power use their nukes before that's possible? And that's what we're worried about. So, and we're not sure if China's not willing to do it or Russia's not willing to do it. Like,
but let me stop you there. President Putin has said again and again this year alone that it's even in their law that they will not do a preemptive strike unless there's an existential threat to Russia.
Yeah.
So then the question becomes,
what does that mean? Like, what is that threat?
What is the existential threat? Well, that would mean like an incoming bomb, like an incoming aggression on the Russian Federation territory.
Sure.
That's what that
or
means.
A full-scale invasion, or lots of things could be.
So the U.S. needs to get their ships out of the Mediterranean.
It would help.
I mean that's like would help.
I mean, we could remove all of our bases around Taiwan and China as well. That'd probably be useful.
That would help. So let's see what the audience pose this to the audience. What do you all think? What are some thoughts coming through?
Heidi Healer said we need our Galactic Federation allies. Maybe the Martians will help. I think is the thought there. But yeah, it's people are just upset. Everything is so murky, smoke and mirrors. I think it gets worse before it gets better. Yeah, I think preparing for the worst is a useful thing to do right now.
I think we need some people really talking about how to get to peace, but more than that, how to make it so that so much money isn't being made by the manufacturing and use of weapons. And that's the key. If we can figure out a way to demonetize the way they demonetize all of us asking for peace, if we could demonetize the military, I think that would help. But unfortunately, we're living in a world where weapons are worth more sometimes than their weight of gold, unfortunately. So where do we go from here? So, we need people to talk about building and creation instead of destruction. And unfortunately, the politicians that the US has been electing and supporting for decades are all about destruction. And, they're old. They don't care. They're not going to be here. They don't care. They're like, let it go. They don't care.
Let it go.
They're all about their ego.
Let it go.
They're all about their ego and all that other stuff. So we're living in a difficult time. But I would say, I did want to say this, and then you can have your thoughts as well, Reef. I actually lost friendships over my position supporting Palestinians. I lost friendships. I lost followers. while they're losing their lives. I mean, Palestinians are losing their lives. So this is, I'm not trying to sound, trite.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is this has been so emotional for so many people. People have lost their jobs for their positions on supporting Palestine. And, and I lost a good friend who's never speaking to me again about it, said I was spreading hate. Like, really? Okay. 2,000 children are dead and I'm spreading hate. Like that's no.
Well, see, that's the thing. Our mutual friend Indy is of that particular village. And he's been appalled at, like, he has a personal social media as well as that is just any excuse to continue what they're doing there. And there's so much misinformation on that side of things, and countering historical content. Like, they've learned how to manipulate a narrative incredibly well, from how they've seen what worked and what didn't in Ukraine. They see what worked and what didn't in Vietnam, Korea, like every war possible. It's like they learn. So now it's they do things like they will do an event and then blame it on the side that it's being done to. Just classic.
And furthermore, though, this is being driven by the collective intelligence agencies, Mossad, CIA, and MI6, MI5. And those Five Eyes they glom their resources together, and they have a very big way of infiltrating any kind of movement of resistance or any kind of, and they have a way of suppressing. And Matt Taibbi did a good job of showing how they infiltrated, social media and the information platform.
And
but what was really interesting to me is
great articles
I
from
did a
people like Alan McLeod on that same. They've infiltrated every social media tech company. It's all CIA, ex FBI, ex NSA. Like, you can't get away from them. Even TikTok, who we blamed on Chinese stuff, it was all our people running it.
Yeah, it was neolibs. So what I have to say is, though, I had an op-ed that came out about RFK, and I did it was an RT op-ed that I did, and I basically suggested he was an illusion of choice. And I talked about how he hired his daughter-in-law, who was a CIA officer, Amaryllis Fox.
Yeah.
Now, I have read Amaryllis Fox's book. I listened to her audiobook because I really wanted to, before I talk about someone, I'm not going to just talk about them. It was in her own words. I wanted to hear, and I'm almost finished with it, what she's talking about. And it was so interesting because how many times she has used the phrase sowing discord. Yep. And the reason why I bring that up is that is the exact terminology that's being used against the Uhuru group, the Black socialists that are facing 8 to 10 years in prison because they did a FaceTime meeting with friends of Russia. That's it. Yeah. No money exchanged hands, no money. There was no nothing. They literally were talking about wanting to bridge the gap between and get over Russophobia and Chairman O'Malley is 80 years old, to give some context. He's been a civil rights activist for the Black movement in the US for 50 years. 50 years. And he has no ties to Russia. He's very outspoken about that. But now he's facing prison, and the words in the indictment are because they were sowing discord. Now, those same words are being used against January 6th, people that were at the January 6th event. And, they're being charged with all kinds of crimes. And some of them that are imprisoned are being put in solitary confinement or long-term prison sentences for simply showing up. They're being called American terrorists. So, the justice system is definitely, the DOJ, especially under the Biden regime, has weaponized against its own citizens. So why I was concerned is here's Robert F. Kennedy trying to pose as this outsider.
Yes.
And yet Amaryllis Fox, the CIA officer who's now retired, is running his campaign. She talks about her psychological technique. She was an undercover. She was a very specific kind of CIA officer.
Right.
Her job was to lie. Her job was to pretend she was someone else, doing something else, and befriend someone and gain their trust to get information.
And then possibly marry into a giant political like legacy family.
Right.
You know,
well,
once
so
a member of
that,
the,
but my
once a member of the CIA, always a member of the CIA, unless you know, got thrown out. In my opinion.
I'm a whistleblower. Now she's critical. She's somewhat critical, but you listen to her book and it doesn't violate any of the CIA's laws. She's not being under investigation. She's not taking any heat. She's not like Kyle Seraphin, FBI whistleblower we had on our show.
Kiriakou or right.
Been threatened with prison or put in prison. Yep. No, she's working hand in hand with them. And so it was really startling for
we've lost a lot of friends too over it's hard for people to look. People are looking for hope in any way possible, and if they see a candidate that panders to their issues in any capacity, they jump on board right now. So but you know,
this is the thing with Robert F. Kennedy. Robert F. Kennedy has been outspoken about COVID. He's been outspoken about many things, but he has taken a Zionist tract on this whole issue. And I know because I'm listened to Amaryllis Fox's book, she was very entrenched in that issue. So I know that his influence is coming somewhat from her and her experience instead of his own. And what's really like mind-boggling about all of this is that one of the assassinations of his own family members was carried out in part by intelligence services, including Mossad.
Yes.
So
for their support of Palestinians, by the way, which he tries to make this a like, well, my family's always supported. No, it hasn't. Like
RFK was, and I mean, he knows this.
Look, this guy's and flip-flopped on his stance on qualified immunity, even though that's one of the big key factors in taking down doctors in regards to the COVID issue. You know, he's sucked up to ICE down at the border, you know, which if you feel that way, I mean, that's your opinion, but a lot of us don't agree. You know, but
I think, this is the thing. This is what I want to get to. This is the final thought.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a geopolitical analyst. So what I do is I try to pull all the way back. I have my opinions, but I do try to pull all the way back and look at the bigger picture. Just like I know that the US is positioning their ships in the Mediterranean because they want to get closer to the proxy war with Russia, and they want to get closer to Iran because they're going to start a hot war. Okay, I pulled all the way back. I'm upset about what's happening to the Palestinian people, but I know that the long game for the US is entering another war like they did Iraq, except what US citizens don't know is that Iranians are very different than Iraq. They have a very sophisticated army and a very organized and well-funded military. We don't stand a chance. It will be like nothing we've ever seen. And then you're going to involve a lot of other regional actors because the Arab nations are uniting. This isn't 20 years ago. This is now. We're in a different time. Now, as far as RFK goes, to those of you who I offended, I am going to offend you. Okay, because I will do that again and again, because I don't believe that he is an outsider. I met him. He's a nice person. He's lovely. He's done some good things. He's done some great things, particularly for the environment. But he hired a CIA officer for his campaign manager, and she's steering the ship. And I'm watching his campaign change to suit her, to suit basically the administration narrative. He'll fall right back into that. He'll warmonger just like the rest of them. He showed his colors already with
let me ask you this. He recently came out as running as an independent, right? Which Cornell also has done. What we're told here amongst our circles is that the point of running third party, you're probably not going to win, but if you manage to get a third party to 5% of the vote, you get federal funding, which would then allow you to compete with the other two parties. Yes? What happens if you run as an independent and get 5%? Where does that money go? Does it go anywhere? So a lot of people feel like this is them dropping out without dropping out, right? Like that, unless their plan is to win the whole thing, which they can't do. You know, so, and this is also his connection to Rabbi Shmuley, who he's done plenty of stuff with. I like, these are complicated things, but
I mean, like is he supporting the 100 billion that's going to Ukraine and Israel? Obviously he is. Well, before he was saying that he was not going to support endless wars. It had to stop. It had to stop. And then all of a sudden he flipped, and now we're sending,
it's just like what happened. You remember the Iraq war stuff, right? Like incubator babies, and then being called, you support terrorist organizations and you're not a patriot, and yada, yada, yada. And we got to go get rid of all the brown people in huts with our multi-million-dollar missiles. Which we still have people in prison over reporting the war crimes we committed during that period of time. So
I know. Well, Julian Assange, and there you go, Julian Assange. And I wish so much that Julian Assange was free and able to do the work that he was doing right now. And on that note, let's hope that Assange gets free and we can move towards a more peaceful world. And I want to end with his quote, Reef. I want to end the show with his quote. And thanks for everyone who tuned in. We'll see you next week. I'll have a guest next week, probably to talk about the ongoing conflict in the Middle East. So listen up for that. But the quote from Julian goes, if you can start a war with a lie, then truth can bring peace. So let's keep doing what we're doing. We're all information warriors. We're fighting for the truth. Support INN. Even though they took us down in YouTube, follow them in Rumble, support all you can, support Reef's show, support, other people that we've had on the show, like Sarah with DD Geopolitics, support my friend Shay Bose, who has a show, support Fiorella, Isabel, and Pasta and their show, and do what you can, because our voices are getting dimmer and dimmer because they're trying to shut us all down. And we're trying to bring truth. So good night, everyone. I hope next week brings peace and not more war.